Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sales Made Simple Workshop. This is your host, Joshua Gillow. And today, we're going to talk about how to transform your landscaping business, adopting a hospitality mindset for unmatched success. That's our focus today. If you guys stick around with me to the end, you're going to learn how to shift your mindset from project revenue to client relationship, because that shift will drive profits through the roof. Also, you're going to discover the top 5 simple shifts that will cut overwhelm and stress out of your day as a business owner. And also then how to track your way to success, not just think about it, not just will it, but actually be able to track it and see your progress. So guys, thanks for joining me here today. I'm going to jump right into it. When I first started in the outdoor living world, and it was more of a landscaping business when we first started in the garden center, I remember thinking, how am I going to learn how to do this? I was full of fear, of uncertainty, of not knowing exactly what to do, of doubt, and just kind of watching what others around me were doing. What were other landscaping businesses doing? What were my customers asking for? And back then, I didn't really want to read a lot of books. I didn't have a lot of time, nor did I have a lot of focus. So I decided to just look around what others are doing, and I started to copy them. And it started to work in the beginning. I started to get some projects coming through. Our business was starting to grow a little bit. And we started to take on projects that were probably $1,000 to $5,000, maybe $10,000 on a good day. And that was mind blowing to me that people had that kind of money just to spend on landscaping. But in general, I started to realize that there was a growth that was possible. But here's the problem, guys. I was growing the business with my brother and my father, and we were growing the business, but we really didn't know what the heck we were doing. We were just saying, okay, we'll just take more of anybody that comes to us. We didn't know who our ideal client was. We didn't know how to grow a business, heck, how to run a business. We just knew that we wanted to bring money in the door, and we wanted to spend less of it so that we could make a profit. That's all we knew in the beginning to get started with. So I started to search at a certain point when we started to grow and get more and more clients coming in through the garden center and through word of mouth and all that. As we started to grow, I started to wonder, okay, how do we going to run this business? Starting to become a business where we've now made over $100,000, $200,000. Like, holy moly, this is starting to become serious after a couple of years of hard grinding. What are we going to do? So I remember clearly that my wife, she is a chiropractor, and in the world of chiropractic where she's from, they have a lot of seminars. They do a lot of get-togethers. They do a lot of sharing that goes on. They talk about business. They talk about how to serve your clients, how to treat your clients with more of an experience than it is to just be someone that comes in, adjusts bones and leaves, like that kind of thing. So I would go to these seminars with her, this farm boy from Pennsylvania. I'd go to these seminars with her, and I'd be like, man, none of this has anything to do with what I do in my life. None of this. I mean, they're all talking about subluxations and adjustments. They're talking about patience, and they're talking about the power that creates the body, heals the body, the philosophical side of everything. And I'm thinking, I'm just a landscaper here. What the heck am I doing in this room? In the beginning, my mind was I was pretty stubborn. I was kind of set my way like, man, I'm just here to entertain her. I would, just sit back and listen and whatever. And next thing you know, I said, what if I started playing a game? I said, what if I'm sitting in on this seminar and they're talking about all these things chiropractic? And what if I just switch the words from chiropractic to landscaper? What if I just flip those words? And every time that they talked about serving their patients, I talk about serving my clients. And every time they talked about, giving their best through the adjustment, I talk about giving my best through design and installation. What if we just switch those words? How would it change? And I tell you, listeners, after going to a bunch of these seminars, I started to get really good at this. And then my business started to grow. I started seeing opportunities where I didn't see opportunities before. I started seeing ways to serve my clients at a much higher level than any of the other landscapers were around me. Because you know what? They were focused on what most contractors focus on, which is profit. How can I sell this client something so I can make a profit? Which technically is the cornerstone of what we do. But what if there was more to it than that? What if there was more like the chiropractors had? What if there was more to it where we actually were focused on serving our clients instead of just serving them bills, but actually serving them what they truly need, want, and desire in their outdoor living space? What if that were the focus? So I went on a deep dive and started to figure out why. Because you know what? What I found over the time now is that in our industry, landscaping, hardscaping, and outdoor living, the average closing rate's between 20 and 30% across the industry. I talk to professionals around the country on a weekly basis, and that is a pretty standard that I hear. Some are much less. I've seen them down in the single digits. And of them, some of the people are up in the 60, 70, 80%. I mean, it's possible, but the average that we're seeing is 20 to 30%. So if you put that in the quick math, that means if you go out to meet with 10 new clients this week, you're probably going to pull in 2 or 3. So if that sounds like you, keep listening. Next is feast or famine. It's always, you got lots of work or you have none. Either the gates are flooded and you're stressed out and crazy, or you can't seem to figure out where you're going to send your guys next week. Also, many companies don't have work right now, especially being fall and election year and all that. Some guys, they just don't have, they might have a week or 2, maybe 3 weeks of work, and they don't know what's coming next. Next up is that they're often competing on price with other contractors. Most homeowners are going to get that 3-bid choice to make between themselves. They're going to look at those 3 bids and look at which one is going to be best suited for them. The problem is when you're focusing on price and losing, then it means there's something wrong. We should fix that. Next up is not sure where the next, when the next bill is going to be coming in, when the next project's going to be coming in, how we're going to pay that bill. Why is the marketing that we have laid out here, why is it not working right now? So all of these things are problems that we're constantly seeing in our industry. And this is one of the main reasons why it's happening, listeners. Listen closely. It's because we're taught to see each customer as a short-term relationship, and it's only necessary that they are only necessary until they pay their bill and we can move on to the next project. Now, I know some of you guys listening out there do maintenance, you do other things that make that client a reoccurring customer, which is even more important for. And some of us out there, a big majority, are one and done. So we go out, we build a project, and we're moving on. But don't forget, guys, gals, everyone listening, that because we're taught that each customer is a short-term relationship, let's just get through this project, get paid, and move on, we're missing out on a massive opportunity. And here's what I mean by that. Most landscape and hardscape and outdoor living professionals treat their customers by kind of just running out to them as soon as they call with no pre-qualification process. They tell their customers their solution without actually asking them a whole lot of questions. They just go out and they say, look, I'm the one that's in charge here. I'm the one that knows best. I'm the professional here. So sit down and listen to me, Miss Homeowner. Also, they talk more than they listen, constantly talking at customers instead of asking questions and listening, having a conversation with those customers. Then also they're not skilled enough in order to, they keep getting into these situations. I hear it all the time in the Facebook groups. I see it daily, that they get into the situation where it's a 3-bid situation and everybody's chasing the lowest number. The customers, they get mad because the contractor gets mad because the customer went with the lowest bid, and hands go up in the air and the contractor's like, screw this. I don't know how I'm ever going to win at this. How can I ever win? The way that happens is because you haven't given your customers any clear differentiable difference between you and the other quotes. All you've given them is numbers to look at. And if given numbers and the client thinks that all 3 proposals are of very similar equal value as far as what they're going to get for them, why wouldn't they go with the lower price? It's our job as professionals to value stack and create an environment where they understand why you are worth more money. That's something that our industry doesn't focus on. Also, making promises to customers and then falling short, telling customers they'll have proposals or designs or anything, or even going to start, and not showing up or not having these things follow through. People aren't following through. Professionals aren't following through on their word, and they're falling short. And last but certainly not least here is the idea of the yes man or yes woman, where contractors just keep telling customers, yes, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. No problem. Yes. And always say yes when deep down they know it's going to be one heck of a struggle in order to get that all done. So if any of those things rise something in your stomach, or you feel that, or strikes a nerve with you because you know that you've done them before, trust me, most have and still are in our industry. And this is where I started too, doing most of these things. But you know what? The cool part is you're not going to ever have to be stuck there. Awareness is the first step of all of this. So once you're aware that these things are happening or going on, now it's time to start thinking about what can be done. So here's something to think about. It's not just what you sell your customers that matters. That's the revenue side. It's not just what you sell your customers that matters. It's how your company makes them feel about your service, the result that really counts. That's the relationship side. So I'm going to read that one more time. It's not what you sell your customer that matters. It's how your customer feels about the service they really got that really counts at the end of all this. So we're focusing on revenue in the beginning. That's how we're taught in the beginning. Focused on how many jobs can we turn and burn and make a profit. It's not just what you sell the customers, it's about the relationship you build with them, what they feel throughout. Now, do you truly have any control over what somebody else feels as you're working with them? You really don't. All you can control is what you are doing and how you're focusing on your customers and what your target is. What is your object of your affection? Is it the check at the end, getting the money and moving on because you really don't want to be doing what you're doing, but you're doing it because you need to pay bills? Or is it because you're truly thinking about how can I serve this client at the highest level and be able to make a great profit doing it? I don't know if you guys can hear that difference of I need the money versus I'm here to serve. When your heart shifts with that in it to go from a revenue focus to relationship focus, you look at your business completely different. So I have a question for all the listeners out there. What do you think the difference is between just a satisfied client and a raving fan? Because it is possible in our world to have just satisfied clients or absolute raving fans. So if you don't know, satisfied clients are clients that you did the project for, they paid you, they could give or take another project with you. They're not really they don't care if they ever hire you again. You kind of did what they expected. They expected 10%, you gave them 10% and you moved on. Or maybe you gave them 9% and negotiated at the end for the 10, but you got paid and you moved on. That's a satisfied client. Now, a raving fan, on the other hand, is someone who stands on top of their roof and tells everybody about how well your project experience went with them. Now, that's the kind of client that tells all their friends, they tell the people at work, they tell their family members all about how amazing it was to work with you and your team. Now, I'm sure listeners out there, you probably have both. You probably have satisfied customers and you also have raving fans. The question would be, which one is more valuable to your company? Is it just a satisfied customer that probably won't tell a whole lot of people about you? Or is it more the raving fan that is out there, telling everyone they can possibly stop about how great you and your team are to work with? So obviously the main focus here is to get as much or as many raving fans as you possibly can. But the difference between satisfied client and raving fan is the experience that your customer has during your engagement. That's the difference. How did you treat them? How was your expectations? Did you meet expectations or exceed them? Did you promise things and deliver or not deliver? This is the difference between satisfied clients and raving fan. And listeners, you have control over a lot of that. You have control in how you show up to each and every client. You have control over what kind of process and system you have in place to ensure a much better client experience. Because at the end of the day, 20% of a sale is logical and 80%, I'm just waiting for you guys. What do you think it is? 80% is emotional. 80% of the decision to hire you or not hire you is emotional. So if you're just focusing on the nuts and bolts of the project, i.e. focusing on getting a satisfied client, you are going to have a much harder time closing projects. But if you're willing to switch and you're willing to be challenged in the way you're doing things now, and you say, you know what, I really want to create a raving fan culture. I really want each one of my clients to be just super thrilled with what we do. So how do we do that? How do we do that? Well, that's when I go back to this whole hospitality mindset. Like, how are you bringing the hospitality mindset into your daily, your daily connection with your customers? Is it just, how can I get through this project as fast as possible so I can get paid? Or is it, let's take our time through this process and build a relationship with these customers? So I've been talking a lot here. I want to switch over to a story. I want to switch over to something that happened to my wife and I recently that I think will pull this together nicely for you. So again, if you're focusing on your landscaping company being just a transactional enterprise that does projects and does them at volume so you can make lots of money, then you can probably just turn this episode off. I don't know that you're really going to get much from this. But if you're willing to challenge yourself and grow because you honestly want to help people more, you want to serve them at a higher level, and you want to make a shit ton more money, this is how you do it. You switch your mindset over to a hospitality mindset, to a service mindset. So my wife and I were blessed a few months ago to be in Italy. And first time we were there, just enjoying the food and lots of pasta and pizza and gelato and all that good stuff that comes with an Italian experience. And we were in a little town of Verena up on Lake Como. We were traveling by train, and we actually our hotel was in Lecco, which is at the south side of the Lake Como area. And we landed or got off our train there and went into the hotel. And it was a nice hotel, but it was kind of in the middle of a city, and we had just gotten out of a rural area of Italy, and it felt very Italian where we were. But going into this new town of Lecco, it just wasn't as Italian feeling. It's probably a lack of a better way to say that. So we took a train up to another town that we had heard of called Verona, and we fell in love with the town immediately. And we said, you know what? We have 3 days that we have booked in Lecco. If we stay there, we're going to get this kind of Italian town feeling, but we really want this more mountain lake feeling. So what if we were to shift and move up to Verona? So we decided to do that. And so we went to looking for hotels in Verona to see if anybody had any open spots that we could pop into. Now, keep in mind that we knew that we were going to be losing our money back in Lecco, but for us on a vacation like this, we have 3 days to spend in a place that is so beautifully magical. And any listeners who have ever been to Italy or into Lake Como region, you'll understand it is just unbelievably gorgeous. And so we get to, we're in Verona and we're eating lunch, and we start looking around for hotels, and we see one hotel. It's about, I don't know, maybe about 50 yards away. And so we walk over and I start talking to the people, and they gave us a price. They did have a room. Everything was good. Then my wife's like, you know what? They were nice there. They were very hospitable. They certainly were helpful. But then my wife's like, you know what? I saw a little sign just down the street as we walked up to this cafe. Let's go down and see if they have any room. It's right on the water. It's a nice spot. Let's just ask. So we went down to this hotel. It was called Hotel du Lac, and it was right on Lake Como. We walked in, and immediately, listeners, as we walked into this place, we were greeted by 2 women at the front desk, and they asked amazing questions. They immediately said, hey, so, how long you staying? Where are you at now? What are you looking for in a hotel? Like, they were going through, and we had a bunch of questions. And at the time I was planning a hike up into the mountains, and I wanted to figure out car rentals because we didn't have a car. We did everything by train. And these women didn't just say, hey, you can go up there by the train station's a place for a car rental. They actually gave me the numbers. They called the people. They took care of everything immediately without ever being asked before we ever even put a dollar down. They were trying to solve our problems because we were tourists in an area that it's their home. So for us, we're completely out of our element, and they are there helping and going well beyond what we ever expected a hotel to do. Now, unfortunately, they couldn't get us in that day, but they did say, look, we can get you in tomorrow. So we spent a day in Verona, went back, got our stuff up in the train, came back the next morning to Verona to that hotel. And same people were there, took our luggage, said our room will be ready in a few hours. Here's this. What can we do? Here's a great restaurant. Here's a great place for gelato. Like they made us feel like we were family as soon as we walked into that place. And they went out of their way. And it wasn't just those women in the very beginning. The rest of the staff did the same thing. And I tell you this story, not because I want to tell you all about Italy, but more about the way that this hotel made us feel. It was incredible. They took our problem that we had and they solved it for us in the most amazing personalized way. And not only did we upgrade our experience throughout the entire process, we actually ended up having such an incredible time that we would never have had back in Lecco. So I'm saying all this because when you think about your landscaping, hardscaping, outdoor living company, what are your customers saying when you're finished or during your project or during your design phase? Or your sales process? What are they saying? Are they saying, wow, these guys are really helping us out here. They're really trying to solve our problem. They're really asking us great questions, really personalizing this experience to us. Or are they saying, you know what? We're a hotel. We're a landscape company. You get what you get and move on. And then we'll deal with pricing later when you finally get the numbers from other companies. And then we're complaining that we're too high or something wasn't included or something going on. So my question to you listeners is, which are you? Are you just the basic hotel, the Hotel 6 that you just get a place to sleep? Or are you more like the Hotel du Lac where you actually go deep and care? You have your entire team dedicated to discovering and uncovering what is important to your customers to make sure that they're getting exactly what they need and not just focusing on what you always do. Are you flexible enough? Are you asking good questions? Do you care about service, or is it just about the money for you? Now, obviously, you run your business, you can do whatever you want. But oftentimes in this type of business, if we're focused only on the money, if we're only focused only on the revenue, it takes the fun out of it. It takes the experience for you out of it. I believe in becoming part of relationships and projects where it's win-win. So you win as the company, the client wins as the client, and you both move on better because you came together. Not just, hey, how fast can I get this money out of their bank account so I can move on to the next project? So if you're still listening to this episode and you are more on the turn and burn money side, that's okay. Dig deep down and feel if there's anything stirring in your heart that you might be like, you know what, this stress and this overwhelm, this constant feeling of just being a number in somebody's hand when you're comparing, if that's starting to get old on you, when you're tired of your customers telling you that your price is too high and that you really don't have any value, that they're going to pick your competitor over and over again, and you just keep trying and coming back to the plate, putting out proposals and getting shut down left and right, it's time for a change. If you keep doing that exact same thing, you're going to end up with the same result. And I can assure you, and all the listeners out there, that when you slow it down, start pre-qualifying your clients, spend more time getting to know each and every one of them, you won't have to go out and chase people around all over the place. You won't have to be calling over and over again, trying to follow up because you're afraid that they went with a different competitor's price and not yours. If you slow it down and pre-qualify them, spend more time with each and every one of them, they start to get to know who you are. And now you become even more valuable. You also got to remember, it is our job to be the guide, not the hero. And you'll hear me say that all the time. It is about being a servant guide, helping a client to the very best solution, even if it's not you. Not trying to be the loud, brash hero that runs in the door and saves the day and tells them exactly what they should be doing. Your main objective is to focus on helping them solve their problems, not trying to sell them stuff. Not trying to sell them stuff. Let's say that one more time. Your focus is to be on helping them solve their problem, not trying to sell them something. If you focus on solving their problem, they will sell themselves. You won't have to sell anything. That's the cool part about thinking like more of a hospitality company, thinking about relationships more than revenue. You also have your customers, you got to make sure that they feel that you care, not just hear you say it. You can say it all over your website, your social media. Oh, we care more than the next guy, or we really care. We care about our customers. But if they don't feel it when they're working with you, it's all a moot point. They need to feel that with you. And the way that happens is by asking great questions and actually showing up like you care. They have to feel that. Next is to listen. Take notes during your sales process. Make sure you're giving them your attention, focusing. And here's a little extra bonus for you listeners out there. When you're working with your customers through a sales process and you start to hear things like, you know what, we really want to do an outdoor kitchen with a wood-fired pizza oven, but we just can't afford that. But we still love to eat pizzas. So, you know, what can we, I don't know. I guess we'll just go with the kitchen without the wood-fired pizza oven because we just can't afford the extra X amount of thousand to do that. So that'll be okay. We'll be fine. We'll get through it. We'll just go out to eat more often. If you start hearing stuff like that from your customers and they start thinking, and you should be starting to think, wait a minute. So obviously they can't afford the thousands and thousands of dollar pizza oven built in their house. But what if you could help them solve that problem? What if you could go to Uni and get a portable pizza oven for them and wait till the very end of the project and give it to them as a gift and be like, Mrs. Jones, you mentioned that you wanted to have a pizza oven out here. Your family loves to make pizzas, loves to cook together, but we just couldn't get it in the budget. What about this? And you know what? Thinking about that, listening, taking notes during your sales process, you just start to learn things about people that they might want that you can gift them at the end of the entire project. Again, relationships. Do you think that's going to land better than a mug with your name on it and your logo on it? Hey, here's a mug with my logo. Stand around and drink coffee and promote me. Or do you think you're going to get a much better result when you think beyond the sale, when you think about the relationship? Maybe think about gifting clients things that are meaningful to them, not just you. And also listen. Use their words, ask for clarity, listen to your customers. Remember the 80-20 rule. 80% of the sound should be coming from your customer's mouth, 20% yours. Ask great questions, dig deeper, peel the onion, get down to clarity, make sure you fully understand what's going on. That's what this is all about. So guys, I hope you've learned a lot about how to transform your landscape business by adopting more of a hospitality mindset instead of just the standard contractor mindset of, what do you want? How can I get it done? I just need to turn and burn as many projects as I possibly can. Now, last piece here we're going to cover is how to track this. So if you're like, look, listen, Josh, this sounds good. I like this idea. I'd like to implement some of this into my business, but how am I ever going to know if it's working or not? I mean, it just to make people feel better. Is that actually going to make me any more money? Well, here's a system that I've learned that works really well for that. It's called the LSR cycle. And what that basically will create when implemented, watched, and improved is leads for a lifetime, creating leads that keep coming in without having to spend tons and tons of money on marketing. So it's called LSR, lead, sale, and referral cycle. And the goal here is not just a referral at the end. So a lead, sale, raving fan. This is a cycle that helps build that. So imagine, listeners, in your mind, think about a blue triangle. At the very top, at the apex, you have lead. At the bottom right-hand corner, you have sale. And at the left side, you have review. So marketing comes in the top through a lead, to the right to the sale. Sale goes through construction to review and back to lead, right? If you get a great review, that could spur another lead. So that's the typical sales cycle. And if on average, if you have, to our industry average, if you had 10 leads coming in from marketing and 3 went to sales, again, 3 closings. So that would be a 30% closing rate, 10 leads, 3 sales. And then you built that project and you got 1 review. That 1 review may spur other leads, right? And the idea here is to build this machine that constantly keeps feeding new leads in. But if you're going from 10 leads on that triangle to 3 sales, my first question would be, what's missing? If you have 10 leads coming and only 3 sales, you got a 30% closing rate, what's wrong? Why don't we have 10 leads coming in and 8, 9, 10 leads going to sales? What's missing? And I'll tell you right now, guys, what's missing is a predictable sales system, a predictable experience for your customers. So if you get good leads coming in the top, if you have a predictable sales system, you can bring them through and demonstrate your value way before you ever ask for money. Just like in that Hotel du Lac story that I told you earlier, when we went in there, they helped solve our problem before we ever even signed up to stay at their hotel. They were already helping us. And that's the kind of experience that immediately I was like, I don't really care what it costs. I mean, within reason, of course, to stay here. And it wasn't expensive. That was the cool part about this hotel. But it's at this point, these people have added so much value in their process that for me, it was a done deal already. If they would have been all stuffy and said, no, we don't have any room for you till tomorrow, maybe you can come back then. Or, hey, we don't do it this way. People don't just come in the door. They always book online. We would have been turned off and walked away. But since they were very accommodating and they were very happy and open to helping us solve our problems, we said, absolutely, no matter what, we'll go back to Letgo. We'll come back to this hotel tomorrow. That's not a problem. We got to get our stuff anyway. So our goal was to be transferred over that day, but it didn't work, and that was okay because we like the people. So they have a predictable sale. Believe it or not, that's actually a sales system in the hospitality world, is how to get people to come in and obviously stay at your hotel, and you do it through adding value by helping people through that predictable sales process. So that's what changes it from a 10 lead to 3 sales, to go from that to 10 leads to 7, 8, 9 sales. It's a predictable sales system. Next is, all right, so if you have that, if you put that in place and you have 10 leads coming in, you have a predictable sales system, you're closing 8 of them, and you're only getting, say, on the left side, lower side of that triangle, you're only getting 2 reviews. So you're doing 8 great projects, but you're only getting 2 reviews. There's something missing. What's missing at the bottom of the triangle? Well, believe it or not, that's called customer experience. If you have a predictable sales process taking 10 leads to 8 sales, and 8 sales you want to turn into as many reviews as you possibly can, your customers, again, back to what I talked about before, they have to feel something. You can't just get a result and walk out and be like, yeah, that's pretty, that's nice. And they hated the working with you because you guys were never on time. You told them you'd be there. You didn't show up. The materials didn't turn out the way they expected. They never saw samples. Down the list of things that can go wrong on a project. There's an endless list of those things. But if your customer experience wasn't great, wasn't paramount in your focus as a company, what's going to happen is your customer experience is going to slack. And if your customer experience slacks, and you'll take those 10 leads that turn into 8 sales, and customer experience is bad, you may only get 1 review or no reviews. And we know that reviews are the driving force at Google. So our goal is to focus on getting as many of those as we can, positive reviews, of course. So if we want to encourage more reviews, higher reviews, better reviews, we need to focus on our customer experience. So the way we focus on customer experience is through exceeding expectations. It's about setting expectations with customers, and then it's about meeting or exceeding them. If you tell them you're going to be done in so many weeks, it's about meeting or exceeding that expectation. It is you setting that expectation. So make sure you set it achievably. Make sure that if you think it's going to take 3 weeks to do a project, you don't tell them 2. If you're one of those guys that goes in and he gives them a proposal for a project and your goal is to upcharge the heck out of them throughout with change orders, well, that customer experience is going to suck for that client. But if you're somebody who goes in with your sales process, you set all your expectations up front, your price is your price, unless the customer changes something, then that sets expectations and that also builds a great customer experience. So exceeding expectations, doing more than what's expected of you. And the crazy thing is, in the world of contracting, it doesn't take a whole lot to exceed people's expectations. If you're a man or woman of your word and you do what you say you're going to do, you're on time and you deliver on or above what you've already told the client, that's pretty simple. It's not that difficult. So 10 leads coming in through a predictable sales system yield 7, 8, 9 sales. Those sales then turn through a great customer experience, maybe into 6 reviews, 5, 6 reviews. Now, we know that no matter how good a job you do on a client's project, there's not a guarantee that you're actually going to get a review. You can do everything perfect. They can invite you over to the first party, to their kid's bat mitzvah, and you still might not get a review from them. Some people just don't like writing them, even if it is completely warranted because you both had a great time working together. So that's why I have it down at 6. So 10 leads coming in, great sales process, it turns into 7, 8, 9 sales. Those sales through a great customer experience turn into, say, 5 or 6 reviews. Now, what we need to do is direct those reviews back to leads. So what's missing? Making sure that the customer is out there speaking your praises. What's missing is a lasting impression. Something that is this. So if they leave a review, our goal, remember, it's not just about reviews, it's about raving fans. That's where it shifts now. When we leave a lasting impression with our customers through a great experience, through gifting at the end of the project, through over-delivering what they were expecting, under-promising and over-delivering, that leads a lasting impression. It leads a lasting impression with your customers so that those 10 leads through that sales process become 8 through a customer experience become 6 raving fans. 6 raving fans now, leaving a lasting impression on them, become your spokespeople that are out there telling all their friends, neighbors at the golf club, at the dentist, at the hair salon, how amazing. Every single time they have a party, they sing your praises every single time. That's the goal. Because now, if you could see what I'm looking at right now, you would see a triangle with leads at the upside, at the apex, sales on the right, raving fans in the left corner, exceeding expectations in the middle, and a big cycle that those leads come in, you sell them a project by serving them. They become raving fans through a great customer experience. Those raving fans create new leads, back to a predictable sales cycle, back to sales, back to raving fan, back to leads. And this rotation goes on and on and on. Now, this is a beautiful, beautiful example of what could be in a perfect world. And I know some of you listeners out there thinking like, yeah, that'd be really nice. I've got so many things to do. How the hell am I going to incorporate something like this? You start simply by picking one of these different pieces. You start by picking, say, predictable sales system. Let's start getting your sales more predictable. When they are predictable, then you can go from lead to sale faster. Once you have the capital from a profitable project through a sales system, you can then focus somebody or yourself and time on a customer experience that'll create raving fans that you can leave a lasting impression on that'll create more leads. It's one step at a time, listeners. This is not something you have to do all at one time. That's the cool part about this. Now, I say all this because in the beginning, we started talking about exactly what you're going to be getting from this episode today about shifting your mindset from a revenue focus to a relationship focus and how that'll drive profits through the roof. I hope you've learned that throughout this. If you're just focusing on selling project to project to project, thinking about the revenue, you are missing out on a massive opportunity to shift your focus and to gain higher relationships, and those relationships become raving fans through a great sales process and through a great customer experience, and those relationships then sell more work for you. And it's a lot simpler to serve and sell a client who is already warm because a friend or neighbor or family member says, wow, you got to work with XYZ landscaping company, hardscaping company, outdoor living company. They are amazing. They did such a great job. They listen to everything. This is better than I could have ever dreamed of. Versus, yeah, they did the work. They did it on budget, or they had a bunch of change orders. I really don't like contractors. I'm just glad it's done. Second was to discover the top 5 simple shifts that you'll cut overwhelm and stress out of your day. That's slowing things down. We went through that entire list of exactly what that could look like. Just by making small shifts like slowing things down, pre-qualifying clients, being a guide, not a hero, making sure your customer feels that you care, not just hear you say it, Listening and taking notes, consider gifting something that's meaningful to them, not to you, and constantly listening to their words, asking for clarity so you can truly understand. You'll be able to serve your client at a much higher level. That'll take a lot of the overwhelm and stress out of your day. And then also how to track your system through that LSR cycle. So, listeners, if you need help with this to implement this into your business, this is what we do here at Yes Express. We help companies just like yours, landscapers, hardscapers, and outdoor living contractors and designers out there, implement a more hospitality focused, customer experience focused sales process into their company in order to help them become much more profitable, much more effective, and heck, melt that stress and overwhelm off their back so they can actually start enjoying working each and every day with amazing customers. So, if that sounds like you and you're interested, take a look at our website. Yes.express. You can go on and take a look, yes.express, and you can book a call with me and we can talk about what you're doing now currently and how we can help you get to that closing rate. Because I know it might sound crazy. Think about it. If you're closing 2 or 3 out of 10 right now, closing 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 out of 10 might seem insane, but it's possible. We see it each and every week as we train people around the country on this exact process. So if that sounds like you out there and you want to increase your closing rate, be able to serve at a higher level and have more fun doing it, take a look at our website, yes.express, book a call with me. I'd love to chat with you and see if I can help. All right. Thanks, guys. See you next week.